Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
All right, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Frankly Francisco podcast. Obviously, I'm your host, Francisco. Today, I'm picking up a conversation that I had with this young lady on her podcast. Her name is Victoria. She is a Gen Zer. She is intelligent in her thoughts and the way she processes things. We had a great conversation the last time, Gen Zers versus Gen X and Boomers. It's always a generational thing. So I'd like to introduce everybody to Victoria. How are we doing today, Victoria?
Hey everybody, how you feeling? It's good to be here, Francisco. I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Listen, I wanted to get you back on, and I wanted to get you on my show because I did yours, and I wanted to continue our conversation for my audience about the differences between Gen Z and Generation Y and the older generation. There's a lot of things in the news right now where you have people who do not want to buy homes right now. Gen Zers who don't want to work as much. They prefer a part-time job, even though you really can't survive off part-time.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to invest in work, like the older generation does. Like me, I work. If I'm not working, we're usually doing something on my day off. So can you relate to that right now? Because you seem like you're pretty busy. You got school, you're working on your degree. So how's that going for you? What's the motivation like for you right now?
Absolutely. There's a variety of different things that are like running through my head on like a daily basis. Like when it comes to school, when it comes to my future career, when it comes to where I want to live at the moment and working. I'm currently kind of in a situation where I'm like looking for work because I'm at home right now and I'm working from home, and I kind of have different options to where I can work outside of the house. If I can possibly intern in another state. So I go to USC right now. I'm an online student and I'm working on my master's degree in integrated design, business, and technology. So fight on Trojans, right? And there's so many opportunities out in LA, obviously, but I'm in the Dallas area, so definitely trying to do what I need to do while pursuing what I want to do. And that's kind of like the phase that I'm in right now, is like trying to find work to create a sustainable income for myself and my family, because living at home with older parents and a sibling, I definitely have that urge and that kind of that pressure to like pull my weight. And but also I want to pursue things that I want to do that may not be here in Dallas. So that's just kind of the thing that I'm working through mentally right now. And I know I'm not the only person in that position that is living at home, because there's plenty of us 20 somethings hustling and trying to figure out what we want to do right now.
But I find that kind of funny though, because Dallas is an area where people are moving to always. Dallas, Houston area, Texas is big. So
Yeah,
LA though, LA's expensive.
it
And
is.
then you're saying internships. Now let me ask you a question. This is the most important part.
Okay.
Are these paid internships? Are these
Yes.
internships where you're earning a salary? Because a lot of these companies will like to take advantage of people and say, as an intern, you'll learn a lot, but we can't pay you for it. We can't pay you for right now. So how do you go about making sure that you're not going to get taken advantages by one of these companies that want to hire you as an intern?
Absolutely. That is such a fantastic point, because the cost of living is more expensive out in California than it is here in Texas. But I feel like the opportunity out there is more like tantalizing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was out there for a week, last week from September 6th to the 12th for my residentials. And just being there for a week taught me so much. I felt like I got two educations, one in LA and one at USC. And I say that because I was Ubering everywhere. So Ubering, taking the Uber to campus every morning, right? And my Uber drivers were schooling me like everything LA. They were schooling me, they were educating me. We're talking about like the homeless crisis, identity. Oh my gosh, the conversations went deep, but specifically on the topic of like jobs, It's tricky because I feel like I can you can make it work. There's the hustle is everywhere, right? There are plenty of opportunities out here in Dallas, but I think the attraction to LA is that it just seems more of like a vibrant, active, like community. It doesn't feel boring. It's definitely not a boring city. There's a life to it. Like when I was there, I definitely felt that sense of like, oh, there's stuff going on here. Like people are making it happen here. I see why people want to move out here and like start their dream. Um, so yeah, nothing against Dallas because this is where I'm from. This is where my family's from. But I kind of feel like a slight pull in that direction, you know.
So LA is a city of hustle. Everybody's got to
Yes.
hustle for you. Everybody,
Yeah.
every waiter wants to be an actor. Everybody on the street wants to, be in movies or write a
Mm-hmm.
movie, so you have to be very careful when you get into that arena because like I said, it's a city of hustle. People will take advantage of you and will try to suck the life from you every chance they get. That's
Mm-hmm.
just part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what specifically in LA are you trying to get done over there? What are you trying to do in LA? What piques your interest over there? Because remember, you have to balance school, then you have to balance your passion, which is podcasting as well. So how do you fit that all into the mix?
It's tricky. I'm a big I consider myself a big dreamer and like cinching everything down into like one straight path is kind of tricky for me to be honest, but it's as far as like the avenues that I'm currently looking at, I was first looking at a music or entertainment internship with Sony and I applied. I did not get it, but that is definitely something that I found myself still interested in. Like one of my Uber drivers was an artist actually, and I was telling him about it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I can see you doing like being in the music industry, working in the music industry. To that effect, yes, I'm actually signed to a which I told you during the last long time ago
Mm-hmm.
episode that we had signed to a talent agency and I'm still auditioning. Have I booked roles? I'm gonna be real, I have not. So, I mean, but I love the entertainment industry. I know there's a lot going on right now with the strike in Hollywood, the writer strike. So writing is not my particular forte, but getting into more of like the acting scene out there, I know is a completely different animal. But is it something that is kind of in the back of my head? Yeah. But at this moment, I'm kind of like keeping my door open and I'm staying open-minded because the program that I'm in is really I'm surrounded by people in like the product design, the UX, which is user experience space, product design. I'm getting sent opportunities to work at entertainment companies like NBC. So I don't know. These all these companies are kind of swirling. I don't have my eye set on just one at this moment. So
Yeah, you have to figure what's going to work best for you in the long run
yeah.
to see who's going to give you the best experience. Remember, you're not going to have the same experience every company you go to, but it's good that those opportunities are circling you. You're a hard worker. You're all over the place and you're still managing the balance. Now, when it comes to your podcast, how has that been going for you? What is the long term plan for that? Since you really want to get into the acting stuff
Mhm.
and the Hollywood stuff, are you gonna set that aside for a while? Or are you gonna continue to do interviews with people and put yourself out there that way? What are the long term goals?
So with my podcast, I want to remain as consistent as I can because consistency, as you know, is like the name of the game in the podcasting arena. And, the more visible you are, I think the more opportunities you have. Obviously, seeking monetization opportunities on my podcast. Um, I started using Zencaster recently, and each podcaster has their own platform that they like to use, but I'm using Zencaster now. Um, so looking to monetize and also with this program that I'm taking right now, I want to focus more on like the business side. So becoming more practically just becoming more confident as a creator and like labeling myself as a podcast host, as a digital creator, as a content creator, and creating opportunities from there. I would like to see it expand in the health and wellness space specifically because my podcast is tailored towards Gen Z and mental health. So I would like to explore those avenues and see what I could do in that space, because I know that there's a lot of podcasts in the health and wellness space, but seeing how I can make my impact there specifically. I'm still trying to figure out where I fit, but I know I fit in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, just like everything else, there's a ton of people out there I think they said there's over 1 million podcasts out there right now floating around. But
Probably more.
the majority of them end after 7 episodes or so because people just can't continue the content. This is not an easy business to be in, and we've talked about this before. It's very, very difficult. Right now, monetization is almost impossible because all the celebrities are taking the space right now of podcasters who are trying to make a name for themselves. And that's okay because we already know people like the known and not the unknown.
Yeah.
So we have to work a
Yeah.
little bit harder to get ourselves out there. And it's all good. It's just this will weed out the people who are passionate about what they do or who are just worried about making money. Because in this business, it can take you quite a few years to get picked up by somebody and seen by somebody.
Yeah.
But you have an overall view of what you want to do, which, right now for most Gen Zers, that's not that's not true. From the people that you've been around and the 20 somethings that you hung around, what is the feel right now out there for this younger generation of people who just feel like it's not as important as it used to be to hit the grindstone for work?
I think everybody is a unique individual. And I know as Gen Zs, we have the certain labels about us. I think the hesitation just stems from what we see, the way of life that we want to have. We want to choose our own way of life, basically. I think that's something that I keep coming back to is like, there's nothing wrong with the way that our parents grew up, but in this generation, we have the tools that their generation did not have to be able to create a different lifestyle for ourselves. And it might take a longer time or it might look a little bit different, but we're willing to take that risk in order to create something different. And I'm trying to think of like the conversations that I'm having with other young people. So it depends because my community. So I would have to start with the community that I have that I've built up, right? Which is like at my church, in my school program. I have an older sister. She's a year older than me. And then obviously my parents. So I hang out with them a lot. So I think my perspective comes from that overall, I think just sense of like, there's gotta be more. And like there's a quote, there's like a whole wall of quotes on this side of the wall that y'all can't see. But one of the quotes is from Steve Harvey, and it says, if you wake up with the feeling that there has to be more in life, then there probably is.
So, I mean, people will call that ambition. And that's what it
Yeah.
should be called. It's called
Right.
ambition. But a lot of these kids out here today don't have that type of ambition. It's easy.
Right.
In a way, it's kind of easier now. And you're right. Once social media came out, forget about it. It made things so much. People don't even have to work as hard. People say creating content is hard. It is to a point. It is. But all these people are on TikTok. They're making money off IG. They're making money off being on
Facts.
creating this content, videos, things of that nature. But it creates an issue as well because it creates a false narrative that everybody can be a boss, and that's not true.
Right.
That's
Of
not
course
true
not.
at all.
Yeah.
And the other issue is mental health. People are
Mm-hmm.
seeing what other people are fake posting about their lifestyle, and these other people are like, I want to live that life, knowing that 90% of the stuff we see online is the lies anyway. You know what I mean? And these people, and it creates mental illness problems for these people because they don't see themselves reaching that brass ring that they've been seeing other people reach on social media, but we don't know what goes behind the scenes there. So, we're both on the mental health tip when it comes to podcasting. And as of this podcast, September is Suicide Prevention Month.
Yes. Correct.
So, in your opinion, with the Gen Zers, has social media created a firestorm where people are now wanting to delete themselves because they feel like they can't keep up with the Joneses anymore?
Oh, totally. That sense of comparison, I think, will always be there as long as we have social media and as long as we're on social media. And I actually just created a reel yesterday. I remixed a reel from a guy that I saw, uh, just talking about how he's living a life like behind the scenes and elevating in silence. So basically, just doing his thing behind the scenes, right? And I basically responded by saying, like, That's great. There's nothing wrong with getting off of these apps and just living your life and living your best life and elevating in silence. Because I think it's two pronged, right? It's like sometimes we want to move in silence and not tell people what we're doing and just like put our actions out there and like let people give them like, you don't give them everything, you just give them like little tidbits, right? And then the other aspect is like tell them everything, like show out. That's what social media is for. Like do the most. But I don't think there's really a right or wrong there, you know? If you decide to live your life off of social media, like what's wrong with that? If you do decide to show everything on social media, I mean, we can see what you're doing. Doesn't mean, I mean, I don't know. I feel like for me, I prefer to let my actions do the talking. So even when I got accepted into USC, I didn't immediately go to social media and be like, "Oh my gosh, guys, I just got my acceptance letter." Yeah, it was like I got my letter. I told my family, and the first thing my mom, my family was like, "Don't tell anybody." like just keep it to yourself, just keep it to yourself. Even when you go off to California, don't tell anybody right away. Just like drop a little picture or two. And that's what I did. Um so that's my way of thinking, and there's nothing wrong with someone that prefers a more private way of elevating. What do you think? I'm curious about.
Honestly, devil's advocate here. I believe some of the things that people post on social media is not healthy. Is not healthy. It sets the wrong example for the youth. It sets a bad precedent on on what they post. Nobody wants to see you, posting clips from your OnlyFans or promoting your OnlyFans online. Uh, it's some of the thing, and then people just post things just to post them. Like they post the most ridiculous things and think, "Hey, this is going to get some
Mhm,
clicks," because that's what it's about. It's about getting clicks. Don't get me wrong.
mhm,
Social media has been brilliant for the most part, giving us opportunities to make money, making people get their 15 minutes of fame or beyond that. There's
mhm.
people who's gotten their 15 minutes of fame, but they've made so much money, even if they're not in the spotlight, it don't matter because they've made their money and
Yeah,
ran already.
right.
But it's not all good. All content is not all good content. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
I agree.
There has to be a balance sometimes, and I don't think with the algorithm, I don't think there is a balance. If you notice in the algorithm, it'll send you certain things you don't want to see. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? And
mhm.
you can look up positive things, and the algorithm will pick that up, but then it'll throw in a couple things you don't want to see, and it still
Right.
shows you it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's it promotes negativity a lot to me with the youth, the younger kids who are 13, 12, 10. They shouldn't be on social media. There's no reason for a kid to be that young to be on social media. And I think that creates the mental health crisis in the youth right now because they want to be like that person on TikTok. That person's not even real. You don't know if that person's real. They're just setting things up. They're setting these kids up for failure, I believe. That's just my opinion. My kids are not on social media. I don't think they need to be, but every parent is not me. Every parent is not going
Mhm.
to police their kids when it comes to that stuff. When my kids are 18, they can make their own decisions on what they want to do. But right now, I don't see a reason for a 12-year-old or 13-year-old to be on social media worrying about you know excuse the language, worrying about seeing tits and ass on there because that's all they're going to see on there. That's all you really see on social media right now.
It does come up. It does come up. I was thinking about my TikTok feed personally. And by the way, I just want to preface, I didn't get a cell phone until like I was in high school, which is late. Like I was like 17 with my first cell phone. My parents they remind me of your parenting style, if you will. With the whole social media thing, they were very social media averse. At first, they were just like, please be careful what you post. Even with them, I'm very cautious about putting my parents on social media. I will always ask before if I can post a picture of them, like, mom, can I put a picture of you up? Dad, can I put it? If they say no, I'm like, okay, fine. My mom's on Facebook, but the majority of what she'll post is just like Bible quotes and scriptures and things like that. But yeah, they're very much like, and I try, like, even my TikTok feed is very like clean, like it's all very like um motivational content and aspirational content, so people that like lift you up, people that are motivating me, people my age, like people that feel like my friends, even though I don't know them. So I try to filter. There's ways that you can filter out your For You page with certain hashtags if you want to see health and wellness stuff, if you want to see fitness stuff, if you want to see motivational, spiritual content. But that kind of crazy stuff that's dangerous and things like that, I believe, and I could do my research on this more, I believe there are filters on that certain content, but there are ways for you to not see that on your own page, because you shouldn't have to see that on your own social media page.
So yeah, I'm just a different cat when it comes to that. Like when I go on, and it's funny because every social media site has a different thing. Like TikTok, I see a lot of podcasters on there. Not even in my circle, like podcasters that I normally don't see, but they'll have stuff from the podcast. On my Facebook, they have their own version of Reels on there as well, and
Yeah.
that's like interviews in the street. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's some of the stuff is staged, which it's corny to me. But people do it for
I've
the
seen
clicks,
those.
man. I mean, if it's gonna be, if they're gonna make money off of, all good for them. I don't hate on anybody for going out there and making their money. Just if you're gonna make your money, you're gonna have a message out there. Just send the right message, man. Don't
Right.
don't put something out there for these kids that are gonna make them feel like they're less than, and make them worry about who they are and what they do. I see you are trying to find that balance. You're trying to find that balance because you want to be out there. You want to be out in social media world. You want to be out in Cali. That's the bright lights. That's where you want to be discovered. That's where it comes from. I'm too old to be in LA. I'm 44. I'm not doing that. I just turned 44 on the weekend. I'm not.
Maybe like a Glendale.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
a
good. I'm not. Hollywood life for me ain't it. That's it's just too much, and there's too many scams. I'd rather work it the best way I can work it in my own life. But for somebody who's in their 20s, if you have an opportunity to go out there and make something for yourself, go out there and make, but set realistic expectations. You got guys who's been waiters for 10 years that have been waiting on their big break, and it can take a long time for you to get. Look at Samuel L. Jackson. It took him a long time to get his break, but once he got his break, forget about it. He's one of the best actors out there. So just temper. I tell people all the time, just temper your expectations, set goals for yourself, but don't overextend yourself because then what's going to happen is when you start hitting those failures, and you will fail. That's just reality of it. Not everybody's going to hit on the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth try. Just temper those expectations. Look, just keep working. Let me just keep grinding and get where I'm going, because some people fail and then they fall off. And then they just stop. They get unmotivated. They don't want to continue, but you don't seem like that. You seem like you're ready to continue to hit the ground running as soon as you get off that plane. You know what I mean? When you go back to LA, it's the thing for you.
I want to say that off of your point is I was very focused. Like I didn't know exactly what to expect because I had never been to California before or LA, but I was just very focused on like, I'm here, I'm going to be on campus, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunities on campus. I actually recorded a podcast with some journalism students while I was there at USC. So I came in with a plan. I'm like, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to have fun, kind of. But I'm like, I'm here to work, basically. So, and I think that mindset definitely comes from like my parents being old school and definitely coaching me and helping me and cautioning me, and just also being a person of faith as well, and like going with God and like trusting my intuition and using my discernment, but also asking God for like wisdom as well. Like, what do I do? Like, I'm here, you got me here, so you gotta keep me here in some way, basically. So I think that's where that comes from. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean about staying cautious and like kind of curbing expectations, because it's a lot of temptations.
It's LA.
Temptations out there.
Yeah, it's LA. It's always going to be temptations in LA. So tell me, what's going on with the podcast? Do you have anything coming up? Do you have any good interviews that you have lined up for the podcast? Let my audience know where they can find it, the name of the podcast, the social sites, and what you have upcoming.
Okay, so the Feel Your Feelings podcast with a Z. There are a few things that I'm working on at this moment. So I have the host to host series, which you, Francisco, graced on. So thank you for being a guest on the host to host series. I'm currently doing some more of those, and I do have some guests that I would like to have on. And what I like to do with the host to host series is interview radio or media personalities, podcast hosts, podcasters that I listen to, and basically allow my viewers to get a sense of how they got to be where they are. And let them share their wisdom as well. I'm also doing another series called the Game Changer series. So I want to I've already talked to two people, and the inspiration behind that just came from the sports world. I was watching like a Kyrie Irving interview, and he was talking about like being a game changer, and I was like, okay, I want to do like a sports and mental health vibe type thing. But then I was thinking like, well, anybody can be a game changer, really. So I want to talk to like young people that are making an impact or doing big things in their communities, or who are kind of making waves. So it's still under construction, and I'm still looking for podcast guests. So if you or someone you know is a game changer, or like a former athlete that you would love to see on there, reach out to me. Yeah, I have some people in mind.
Hmm.
um what else?
And where can they find you?
Oh, okay, so they can y'all can find me on Instagram. You can also I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I do have a YouTube channel. It is called the Feel Your Feelings podcast. And I'm an independent creator. I'm still growing. Okay. So feel free to follow me on there and support your girl. And my personal Instagram is as told by Victoria _. So I would love it if you give me a follow.
I appreciate you coming on the show. Listen, I see big things for you in the future. Just have to keep your head on straight. Like you said, LA
Yes,
has a lot of
sir.
temptations, especially for the young and uninitiated when it comes to California. Continue to keep grinding and doing what you're doing, and continue to keep helping a younger generation help find their way. I think you're doing a service out there. You are trying to bridge the gap between the older generation and the younger generation to find a happy middle ground of understanding. And not everybody's gonna like the content, just like not everybody's gonna like my content, but there's always a niche. There's always some audience that you can have out there that is willing to listen to what you do and the thoughts that you bring to the table when you are
Yeah.
having your podcast. So
Yeah.
continue success. I hope nothing but the best for you. You continue to grow as a podcaster, but also as a person. And just make sure you set your expectations where you can shoot for the stars, but hey, this doesn't work out, I have a backup plan to fall back on. And I think Gen Zers need to work on that a little bit more now, because they don't do that. A lot of these Gen Zers just go for it 100% bore, and then when it fails, they are stuck. They have no backup
Mm-hmm.
plan because they wanted to follow their dream 100%, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. And can I just say, Francisco, I want to say thank you to you, because like your model of podcasting is also like inspiring to me, and it's something that I'm observing. And that is basically like creating what you want to create, right? And like running wild, not having too much of like a this is how it should be, but like you're just creating from like your spirit basically. And that's kind of something that I'm taking and running with on my platform, is not to be so rigid with my content. So
Yeah, I like
I
to.
just want to say thank you for what you're doing as well, and to keep up the great work.
Yeah, listen, if I can inspire people to do what they're doing right now, it's a win for me. I like to have organic conversations. I don't like things being too rigid or too interviewing. I want to have people loose. This is about me telling their story. This is about them telling their own story. I'm not the voice of the people, and I've said this before. I want the people to have their own voice. And by bringing them on the show, they can tell their stories. I'll ask my questions, but I'll ask in a way where I'm not agitating anybody. I'm not egging anybody on. We just want to have a good flow of a conversation. And I don't like to be one of these people where it has to be point A, point B, point C, point D, because then it turns the interview a little sideways, because then
Yeah.
the guest can sense that you're just being a robot. You're not being natural. I like to laugh. I like to joke. And with guests like you, it's easy. The first time we had our conversation on your podcast, you were a bit nervous, but after we continue to talk and we had that conversation, you loosened up and you were able to have a better flow to the conversation because it wasn't rigid. I let you have at it.
And that's what I want to do moving forward. The more interviews that I have, the more people that I talk to, is just feel free to like loosen up and like be myself, because I feel like that's something that my generation also struggles with is an unwillingness, and I saw this on a post, right? So, an unwillingness to embrace vulnerability. And that just comes from like a lack of trust, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't really establish trust too much. We kind of have our walls up. But being vulnerable and like just flowing with people and talking to people and not, not having it be too in my head too much. So my podcast is like my dream space, really.
Yeah, it's therapy. I look at this
Yeah.
podcasting as therapy because you can, when I did that podcast about my mom when she passed, that was therapy for me. I was more vulnerable at that point than any other point I've ever had, because people could have criticized it or could have wrote negative things, but they didn't. And people understood because, people lose parents every day, but it's your mother. You only have one of those and it's difficult. And I was stressed out on my birthday too, because it was like, usually I get a call from her and my mental health was really down that day. My wife took me out to dinner to cheer me up and, spoke to my brother, but it was still a hard day because I didn't get that call from her. I always get a call from my mother on my birthday and, it changed forever. It's never going to be the same, uh, but I get what you're saying.
Hmm.
Vulnerability is a hard thing, especially for the younger generation. My son, he's 16 years old, and the kid, it's like talking to a brick wall. Like you try to get through the kid, and you can't even get it every so one or two short answer. He won't tell me anything, but he'll tell my wife everything, like which weirds me out. But it's it's cool. It is what it is. But I want to leave you with what I leave everybody. No matter what anybody tells you, if you found your purpose, live it. We'll talk to you folks later. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.